Imagine standing on a dirty city street, just staring up, frantically trying to stop an endless disaster from crashing down right on your head. You're completely exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and honestly, you're losing the battle. Well, that feeling of absolute futility, that is exactly where our explainer begins today. And trust me, it holds the key to fundamentally changing how long and, more importantly, how well you're going to live as we analyze Dr. Peter Attia's concept of Medicine 3.0. Let's just jump right in.
So, for years, while Dr. Peter Attia was a surgical resident in oncology over at Johns Hopkins, this haunting, recurring dream basically ruined his sleep. In the dream, he's standing on a sidewalk in a city that looks a whole lot like Baltimore, and he's holding this padded basket. Every few seconds, an egg just drops from the sky. He's running frantically, diving like an outfielder, trying to catch them, but he just can't. The eggs smash onto the pavement, splattering yolk all over his shoes and his white coat. He feels literally helpless. And the thing is, this wasn't just some random nightmare. It was a perfect metaphor for his waking life. You see, his team specialized in pancreatic cancer, which is this silent killer usually found way too late. They were performing incredibly dangerous, complex surgeries, like the Whipple procedure, essentially just trying to catch those falling eggs. And sure, they'd celebrate when a patient survived the surgery for 30 days. But the grim reality? Almost all of those patients still passed away just a few years later. The eggs ultimately smashed anyway.
That overwhelming sense of futility, it demanded a massive paradigm shift. Attia actually got so frustrated by this endless cycle that he left medicine entirely for a bit. But when he finally came back, he brought with him a revelation born right out of that exact dream. He realized the medical field's main problem was that it was totally obsessed with getting better at catching eggs. But here's the catch, no pun intended, no matter how good you get at catching, you're eventually going to lose. The only way to win is to stop the problem right at the source. We have to figure out how to get up to the roof, find the person actually throwing the eggs, and stop them in their tracks. And that realization forms the absolute core of the source material for today's explainer, Dr. Peter Attia's groundbreaking book, Outlive. He realized that we don't just need new medical tools, we need a completely new mindset for how we approach health and disease prevention. We have to transition away from just sitting around waiting for diseases to strike and instead adopt a proactive framework. A framework he calls Medicine 3.0.
Section 1. The reality of the ER, a futile choreography.
To really grasp why medicine needs this massive upgrade, we've got to look at clinical reality. Picture this. It's the beginning of Attia's second year in medical school. A woman, mid-30s, comes into the ER complaining of shortness of breath. Attia is sitting right next to her, just making small talk, asking her name, if she has kids. Then suddenly her face just twists in sheer terror. She gasps for air, her eyes roll back and she loses consciousness. Instantly, the room erupts into this perfectly choreographed medical ballet. Doctors and nurses swarm in, they intubate her, pump her full of these super powerful meds, shock her chest over and over with a defibrillator. An attending physician even looks right at Attia and yells at him to jump in and do chest compressions. It was literally his first time doing CPR on a real person. But, despite all of this rapid, precise, highly advanced medical intervention, she died right there on the table. Just minutes before, they were chatting about her family. It was likely a severe pulmonary embolism. The medical team executed their protocol flawlessly, but in the end, they were completely ineffective.
Section 2. Fast death versus slow death.
That traumatic ER experience really stuck with him, and it highlighted a huge distinction about how death actually arrives. Basically, it comes in two distinct speeds. On the streets of downtown Baltimore, Attia witnessed fast death every single night. We're talking gunshots, stab wounds, horrific car crashes. And let's be clear, modern medicine is an absolute miracle when it comes to fast death. We know exactly how to patch up broken bodies, stop bleeding, and wipe out raging infections with antibiotics. But during the day shift, he dealt with slow death, patients suffering from vascular diseases and, most notably, cancer. These aren't sudden, violent wounds. They're caused by slowly growing tumors that have just gone unnoticed for years. And medicine's success rate here? It's tragically low. As Attia points out, cancer really doesn't care if you're rich or poor. If it wants to take you, it usually succeeds. So modern medicine is incredible at stopping fast death, but it's really failing us when it comes to slow death.
The reality is, unless you're into extreme sports like base jumping or you're texting while driving, which please don't do, you're highly unlikely to die a fast death today. Instead, you're almost certainly going to face what Dr. Attia vividly calls the 4 apocalyptic horsemen of aging: cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, and type 2 diabetes along with severe metabolic dysfunction. These four horsemen right here are responsible for the vast majority of the slow deaths we experience in the modern world. If we actually want to achieve true longevity, our entire focus has to shift. We need to understand and defeat these specific, slow-moving killers long before they ever show clinical symptoms.
Section 3. The Curse of Tithonus.
Okay, before we talk about how to live longer, we really need to aggressively debunk a common misconception about what the word longevity actually means. And to do that, let's look at the ancient Greek myth of Tithonus. So Eos, the goddess of dawn, falls head over heels for a mortal named Tithonus. She begs Zeus to grant her lover eternal life. And Zeus, being Zeus, agrees. But Eos made a massive, tragic mistake. She forgot to ask for eternal youth. So Tithonus lived forever, sure, but his body relentlessly decayed. He spent an endless existence trapped in this increasingly frail, withering, broken body. It was literally a curse. This story brilliantly illustrates a key point. Simply living longer, just blindly ticking off birthdays on a calendar, is an absolute nightmare if your body and mind are failing you.
Let's put that into perspective. Consider the number 50. Back in the year 1900, 50 years was the average life expectancy. Most people died fast, from accidents or infectious diseases. Our current medical system? It was brilliantly designed to combat the realities of the year 1900. It was built to pull drowning people out of a river. But today, we're surviving long enough to actually face those four horsemen we just talked about. The problem is, our system is still just waiting down by the riverbank to pull us out, when what it really needs to do is walk upstream and figure out why we keep falling in to begin with.
Section 4. True longevity, the health span.
So, this brings us to the ultimate formula for true longevity. It actually has two equally important components. On one side, we have chronological lifespan. That's just the total number of years you're alive. But on the flip side, we have health span, the actual quality of those years. Now, a lot of people define health span as simply being free from disease, but Attia pushes back on that hard. He says that's way too simplistic. He points out that technically, he is just as free from disease right now in his 50s as he was back when he was a 25-year-old med student. But his 25-year-old self could easily crush his current self, both physically and mentally. The true goal of health span is actively maintaining and even improving your robust cognitive and physical function as you age. It's not just about surviving, it's about having the capacity to truly, fully live.
Look, I know all of this can sound pretty daunting. Dr. Attia notes that a lot of his patients come to him with this deep sense of dread. You know, they've watched their parents or grandparents suffer through severe physical decline, dementia, or debilitating chronic illness, and they just think, well, those are my genetics, that's my fate. But here is absolutely the most important takeaway from this explainer. The past does not dictate your future. Just because your family suffered in old age does not mean you're locked into that exact same tragic ending. The science clearly shows that our longevity is incredibly malleable. It can be shaped, molded, and significantly extended, provided you take the right actions.
Which brings us to the most critical question you can ask yourself today. Where is your current trajectory actually taking you? If you just keep living exactly the way you are right now, what is your health span going to look like in 20, 30, or 40 years? The warning signs are already there. We literally can't afford to wait until we're sick to start playing defense. We have to stop just running around with a padded basket, frantically trying to catch those falling eggs. It is time to get up to the roof, take control of the situation, and start building your health span today.